Madison Daniel, and I'm an intern for Girl CEO Connection, and I'm very excited today to be sitting down with Stacey Ferriera. Today we're going to be talking about the topic of plugging into people, connecting, networking, communicating, and collaborating. So thank you so much for sitting down with us today, Stacey. Do you want to just give a little brief introduction of yourself and kind of your career so far?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be chatting with you and kind of going back and forth on some things. Just to briefly introduce myself, I am a young entrepreneur. I started my first company with my brother, who's 2 years older than me, back when I was 18 years old. That was a company that was in the internet security space, and we built that over the course of 2 years and then sold it to Reputation.com in 2013. After selling that company, I then went on to work at Reputation.com in the marketing department, and while I was there, I also published a book with one of my friends called 2 Billion Under 20 that's all about young millennials and just how access to technology and access to things like the internet have really allowed us to go out and start our own businesses from a really young age. So published that book. Then after that, I decided to kind of leave my job at Reputation.com and go for startup number two. I'm working on my next company, which is a company called Ford. Basically, we're building flexible scheduling software so that anyone that works an hourly job in retail and restaurants and hotels, they can just come into our app, see all the shifts that are available, go book a shift that they want to work, and get paid.
To begin our conversation, since we are talking about communication, a lot of people have brilliant ideas, but if they can't get people to connect with them and kind of explain their ideas the best way, the ideas are only words. So, where did you first learn to connect with people to get them to support your vision?
When I was starting off my first company, there was a book that I read that was a book by a guy named Ferriera. And the book is called Never Eat Alone. The whole concept of the book is you should constantly use every opportunity that you have to talk to people, network with people, and to your question, learn how to communicate with all different types of people. And you literally have 3 opportunities every single day, no excuses to do that. You can always sit down with someone, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, get to know them, talk to them, and learn how to communicate and share your ideas. So I kind of took that book to heart and at a young age just started reaching out to people cold on things like LinkedIn or guessing their email address and shooting them an email saying, hey, can I grab a coffee with you, or could I grab breakfast with you, or whatever it is. And just doing that enough time with people allowed me to kind of really meet a lot of interesting people, but also share my ideas and get comfortable with my own narrative and get comfortable with the ideas that I had. I think kind of that mentality very early on of not being afraid to sit down with people. More at that, the more you communicate with people, the better you get at it.
What advice would you give to more specifically high school girls who are in business and wanting to start a business and learning how to communicate in the best way possible?
I would say don't be afraid to reach out to folks who have been there and done that. So the thing that this is advice that I use for myself too, but find and identify people that are kind of one step ahead of you, or they're in the place that you want to be maybe a year, 2 years from now. And go out, find those people on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever it is, connect with them and say, hey, I really look up to the things that you've done. I'd love to, grab a meal with you, or I'd love to just chat with you over the phone about the things that you've done. And use that as an opportunity to learn from them and then network with them. And the more that you do that, the larger your network gets and the better you get at, again, kind of telling your story to multiple people.
With that all being said, how someone communicates with others can be really crucial to their business success and in their future. And you've been an excellent example of a great entrepreneur who communicates very well at all different levels and situations. Just to list off a few, you learned how to communicate with potential investors like Richard Branson, who did invest in your My Social Cloud company. And then you've also been a TEDx speaker a couple of times, both in the United States and internationally, which is absolutely incredible. And then you also talk with the U.S. State Department internally, talking about entrepreneurship. So with all of that and talking and communicating with people in everyday life, how do you make sure that you're communicating what you want people to hear?
And I think it comes down to, especially when you're talking on kind of a big stage. So when you're giving a talk on a TEDx or speaking with the U.S. State Department or whoever it is, it's good to think about what you want to talk about and the message that you want to convey, beforehand. So I always spend, a few hours, if not multiple hours, before giving a big speech like that, thinking about what do I want my audience to walk away with? What are the things that I want them to either learn, or the questions that I want them to walk away asking, so that they can decide for themselves if they agree with the things that I'm saying or not. And then if you take that kind of on a smaller scale, when you talk about kind of talking with mentors or advisors or building that network personally, one-to-one, where you're not speaking on a stage, the thing that I always do for when I talk to my mentors and my advisors is I have a list of questions. I don't certainly want to waste their time, and I don't want them to feel like I am wasting it. So what I do is I write out a list of questions beforehand, and I say, hey, here are the 3 things that you've done that I would like to do in my own career. How did you do this? How can I replicate something like this? And just kind of have a list of intelligent questions, so that when you get that opportunity to sit down with people for 30 minutes to an hour, you're using that time wisely, and also walking away with more knowledge than you had before on the things that you're passionate about.
What about communicating in writing, as in emails and written reports? What advice would you have for our viewers?
I would say, like I said, when kind of speaking to people, a lot of it comes down to practice. So the more emails that you're sending out to people, the more you'll get responses back to the emails that you're sending. And then you'll be able to look at those emails and say, how does this person structure their email? Do they use hello, Stacey? Do they use hi, Stacey? Do they use dear Stacey? What kind of formal tone or informal tone do you use depending on who you're talking to? How do they structure the body of the email, and how do they structure the ask? Do they keep the email short or long? I'm always a big fan of very short emails because, again, you want to make the most of the time that you have with people. So look at how other people are structuring those emails, and you start to kind of see a pattern of, hey, certain types of people or people with certain titles like to be addressed this way or this way. But I would always err on the side of having a little bit more of a formal tone until you build enough of that relationship to be able to just send very quick, short emails back and forth. But email communication is very important, making sure that your spelling's right, grammar's right, you're using the right tone.
When you were in college and you were working on my social cloud, how did you handle situations, and if an adult didn't take you seriously? Because a lot of our viewers are high school girls who may be looking at going out and being an entrepreneur. So how did you get taken seriously?
There are 2 ways. The first is just have a lot of domain expertise on the thing that you're interested in. So if you're interested in business, and more specifically, if you're really interested in social media marketing, be an expert in social media marketing, right? Read all that you can about it. Talk to other social media marketing experts, so that when you're talking to people about it, you've learned enough and absorbed enough information to speak intelligently about it. And I found that if you're one of the most intelligent people in the room on a specific topic, it's really hard to ignore. So just get really good and knowledgeable about the thing that you're interested in. And then kind of the second thing to that is, for every person who doesn't take you seriously, there is a person out there that will. If someone doesn't take you seriously, rub it off your shoulders and go find the next person, because there are people out there that want to support you regardless of your age, and take advantage of those kind of relationships and people, because they're super helpful in helping you boost your own career.
Being the most intelligent on a topic is one of the only ways I think that you can just make actions to be taken seriously. People talk a lot about the importance of being a good networker, but for our high school girls, how would you explain the importance of networking?
So your network is everything. If you want to start your own business, you're going to have to hire people to help you execute on that vision that you have. You're going to have to convince investors to give you money. You're going to have to go talk to customers and get customers onboarded. And all of that comes down to the network that you have and that you're able to build over the course of your career. So networking makes all the difference in your success, whether you're starting your own business or working at another company. So yeah, it's very, very important.
A part of being a networker and connecting with other people is going and meeting people for your personal benefit and for their benefit. And so it's really interesting, when you're first beginning, a lot of the time with networking, you're just starting your network. As you've established your network, how have you acted more as a connector between two different people within your network and helping not only yourself make those important connections, but also helping others connect with different people in your network?
My approach to networking is I want to network with people, but really what that means to me is I just want to be friends with people. Because I find that it's a lot easier to get things done when you start off kind of having this formal relationship, but then as you progress to more of a friendship, you're able to just like shoot that person a quick text and say, hey, I have questions on XYZ. Can you be helpful here? Or do you know someone who you might be able to connect me with? And those relationships are super valuable when you're trying to get something done in your own personal life. So having those friendships to pull upon, I think, is kind of the way that I think about networking, which is how do I transition this relationship from, hey, I just met you, to, hey, we're friends and we have things in common that we talk about and share back and forth. And then in terms of connecting other people, when you're going out and building your friendships, and you have a friend who is like, hey, I need help on XYZ, you're able to say, I know absolutely nothing about that, but this other person who's also my friend knows about that. Here, let me connect the two of you. And in my own life, I would say publishing 2 Billion Under 20, which was the book all about kind of young millennials who are going out and starting their own businesses, that has been a great springboard in terms of building my network, but then also allowing me to connect people together, because there were people in the book who we highlighted who might be working on fashion tech startups. There might be 2 or 3 people working on fashion technology. And I was able to kind of get those people together and say, hey, the 3 of you are working on the same kind of industry, not competitive businesses, but the same industry, connect those people together. In my own career, publishing that book early on was probably one of the best things that I did. And I think I don't want to put words in my co-author's mouth, but I think the same for him.
So a lot of networking, I think, is a very important aspect of starting a business and just honestly being successful in life. Kind of want to transition. You were just featured in Marie Claire, talking about how male entrepreneurs a lot of times are encouraged to drop out of college, but that's not always the case for women. So I'd love to, if you would just kind of talk to that point about your experience of, taking that plunge, going all in for your business, and just what that felt like and what your experience was.
Yeah, definitely. So I've dropped out of college twice now, and NYU, where I was attending school, has been kind of super supportive of my entrepreneurial endeavor. The first time I dropped out was right after my freshman year. My brother and I had raised angel money for my social clouds. We had raised about $1.2 million for that business. And it was kind of an easy choice at the time, regardless of kind of setting aside the parental pressures and the social pressures of, what are you doing? I can't believe you're dropping out of college. But we had a business we had a product that was up and running and healthy, and we had users who were on it, loving the product and the experience. And we knew that we wanted to grow that. And we knew after we had taken on the investment that we had a responsibility to spend time building and growing the business to make a return for our investors. So that decision, when I kind of step away and think about it practically, it was easy for me to make and justify. But when you start layering on, the parents who are amazing, they saved up their entire life to be able to send my brother and I to good universities. So when you start layering on that pressure of, hey, you need to finish and get your college degree, plus friends who are like, what do you mean you're leaving school and we're not going to see you anymore? That stuff starts to add a little bit more complexity. Like you said, I think there's kind of this idea today of the Mark Zuckerberg's drop out of college, wear a hoodie and start a technology company. Where's the female example of that? And so that's something that I always highlight, which is we need more female role models. And maybe it's, the female that drops out of college like myself and starts a technology company. Just in general, more females who are taking that risk, but also standing up and saying, hey, I've done it and let's have a conversation about it, so that other females feel comfortable doing the same thing.
And clearly that decision really did pay off for you, and your company was thriving. An incredible, amazing story. So just as we're kind of wrapping up, I always want to ask what book outside of your own, would you recommend for young entrepreneurs to read just to inspire them to go in to start their own business?
There are kind of two books that I'll recommend. One of them I actually have sitting right here because we talked a lot about networking, but there's one that's called Create Demand for Your Brand, and it's by Michelle Lando. But basically this book is all about how you should think about building your own brand, the things that you're passionate about, the things that you identify with, how you can kind of convey that to other people so that people know who you are, what you stand for, and what your brand is. And I think that's really important, especially when you're starting out in your career, to kind of show people, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and this is more of the kind of stuff you're going to see from me in the future. The second book is a little bit of a longer book, but if you're interested in management styles and how to kind of build and grow teams and how to think about that, there's a book that came out by Ray Dalio called Principles, where he outlines his principles for running one of the largest hedge funds in the world.
Thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me today. I think we had a great conversation, and I hope that our viewers will really enjoy getting to hear a little bit more about the importance of communicating and networking, obviously from an expert. I'm just really happy that we got to have this conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you as well. It was great to chat with you.